Thank you and welcome for being here. I know you're Professor Tretler's class, right? So if you guys don't know me yet, I'm London Pacheco George, the Associate Director here at the Heinz Institute. And today I have the privilege, I'm going to turn it on, to introduce Don Hector Carvajal. That's sort of how he's usually sort of approached. But Hector is the founder of Don Carvajal Cafe and is a 27-year-old Afro-Dominican entrepreneur on a mission to reimagine the specialty coffee market. He was born on a small farm in Dominican Republic and returned there often while growing up in the Bronx, an experience that gave him a unique perspective on coffee and supply chain. So that's where I leave it because I have other questions for you and you'll do that. So we're gonna have a nice chat and then hopefully at the end of this you guys could ask him some questions. All right? So that's a little bit about his store, which is super exciting. I was there. It brings you back home for us Dominicans. So that was a special moment. But Hector, who is Hector and what led him down this path of entrepreneurship?
That's a really good question. I think that everything that I'm doing in life right now has been the combination of my entire life. I've interned at many places. If there's one thing I'll tell you guys, is intern as many places as possible while you're a student, because you will figure out everything you don't like to do. So everything that I do is something that I like. It is tougher managing myself, but everything that I do has been the combination of my life. So I like that, from the kid that was born in DR to the kid that was raised in the Bronx to the kid who went to college in Manhattan and then upstate New York. Hector is that person. So I do like all the mistakes I've made. I like all the successes I've had, all the big mistakes I've made. I think most people see the successes I've had, but I don't really talk about my mistakes too much, and that's where you learn the most. You know,
Well, here we want to know them.
let's talk about it. So I think Hector is that kid who was born in the Dominican Republic, but I was raised in the Bronx from 8 years old. I'm 27 now, so I have about 20 years in this month in the country, and I think I'm just that kid who came from the R, hungry, ambitious, looking for a better opportunity, and I think this is the best place to reach those opportunities. You guys are here taking advantage of an opportunity, so that's who I am. I resonate with you guys.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about the story behind Don Carvajal Cafe, what inspired you to do a specialty coffee, um, and what experience you have before Don Carvajal.
So my mom inspires a lot of things in my life. I think she's the most hardworking person in my life. So I think I had that as an example growing up to be like, all right, I got to either match her energy because I can't really go past it. I think they do a lot with a little bit, and they make things stretch. I don't know how they did things, but they make it work. I think that's what moms do. That's what parents do. That's what dads do. So family does. And it was inspired by my mom. I think she woke up every day, 5, 6 in the morning, made her coffee. She would just tell me, "Oh, this is such bad coffee," but I'm drinking it, and I think people relate to that because we come from a place where we do have a lot of great products: coffee, chocolate, sugar, all these things from the Caribbean, and many places in Africa. We have so many great products, but it's not here. And I think there's a huge gap because things get industrialized, things get commercialized, and it was a gap that I saw. We would always go to the supermarket and she would complain, "Oh, the avocados are so expensive, but they're half the quality." And to me, it was always like, man, like I think there's 1.5 million Dominicans in New York City. Somebody's not catering to that demographic. And then outside of Dominicans, there's people who visit our country. Millions of people visit our country every year, and they're not Dominican, but they appreciate Dominican culture. They appreciate Dominican agriculture, Dominican products. And sometimes people want to experience DR outside of DR. Maybe they went on their honeymoon there and they want to buy the coffee to remind them of the honeymoon they had 30 years ago. Who knows? But these are the things I hear every day. So it was me bridging a gap for that demographic of Dominicans, but me also bridging that gap for people who just wanted to embrace the culture. They didn't have an opportunity. So Don Carvajal Cafe was inspired by providing you an opportunity to experience something positive, something rich, something good out of a culture. And it's really just a cup of coffee. It's just coffee, but it's all these things behind it.
Well, coffee gives you memories, right? And in my household, coffee is the 8 o'clock p.m. 8 o'clock p.m. discussion with my mama about life. But you emphasize community and culture a lot. But when I go to your store, to buy a cup of coffee. Could you walk me through that experience as a Dominican, fine, but as a non-Dominican, what should I expect?
You know, it's funny. I think everybody's experience is different, and everybody explains it differently because we all have different biases. We have different things that we like, different things that we don't like, and everybody that walks in has a different experience. But the goal is that it's always a positive experience. So it's what do you take away from the music? Maybe you're getting exposed to new music. Maybe you're reminiscing on music you've heard as a child. So it could be two different type of experiences from two different kinds of people. It's how do we expose you to a product? We've always sold bags of coffee. You know, we're the first Dominican coffee in Whole Foods Market. We're on Fresh Direct. We're on Amazon. We supply the Nike office. We do Gucci office. We do a bunch of offices. But you wouldn't think about it like, oh man, like I never thought I'd be linking up a Gucci through a cup of coffee. And it's super random, but that's how it goes. So I think, how do you provide the opportunity for people at the store to do these things? You know, having a bag of coffee is just having a bag of coffee, but how do you provide an experience? I think people travel the world and they will never forget that first time they went somewhere. Oh man, I remember when I went this place and I had this meal or I had this cup of coffee. You walking into the shop is us transporting you into the Dominican Republic through the music, through the aromas, through the experience, through the way we talk to you, through the things you taste, and the food, and the pastries, and the coffee. So it's providing you with an experience. Like I say, you don't have to travel to the R. You could just travel to the shop, and then we're gonna take you there, and then you might get motivated to go.
No, yeah. So earlier today, we actually had Mayor of New Rochelle and Dominican, Puerto Rican American, and she quoted retail sort of no longer being what it was before. Retail being sort of that experience that you giving customers, walk-bys, and that kind of stuff. So your retail store is in Irvington, New York. I had a question is, where is Irvington? So my question to you is, why Irvington, a kid from the Bronx?
That's a good question. I think when you talk about experience, you look at social media. People love going to places that are viral. Everybody wants to remake that post that's viral on their Instagram because they want to be viral. They want to be a part of the sensation. That's a big part of experience. You know what I mean? That's a part of providing a coffee shop experience. Where it's like, oh, I want the little cup with the heart in it. We get that every day, and we give you that. And it's like, oh my God, IG, like, look at this. You know what I mean? So a lot of people, they're not used to having that type of experience, so we provide that. Um, retail. Retail experience. I think that's the biggest thing. The pandemic changed the game. You look at Sears, you look at Macy's. These are stores that are failing. Some of them have closed, and it's because we're living in a different time right now about that experience. So that's the biggest difference. I think that you have to be different in the way you approach it. What we do, my approach was, if I'm gonna be like everybody else, I'd rather not do it. People be like, "Oh, but coffee's such a saturated industry." I was like, "It's not saturated if you're doing your own thing. It's not saturated if you're in your own lane. If you create your own niche, you know the riches are in the niches. So how do you carve out your own lane? There was nobody doing Dominican coffee. Decided to do Dominican coffee. Now there's a bunch of Dominican coffee, but they're not the original.
No, I still don't know. Besides Santo Domingo, which I have
Right.
in my cupboard,
And to fi-
I
and,
don't have another Dominican.
and to
coffee.
finalize the question, why Irvington? I grew up in the Bronx, and I grew up around poverty. I grew up around crime. And at some point when I was younger, I realized there's a lot of things happening around me. There's people going to jail, there's people dying. Maybe this is not the best environment to soak into. So, how do I go to school somewhere else? So then I went to school in Manhattan because I figured if I went to school in Midtown and I bumped into somebody, it might be a good connection. It's almost like networking. Oh, this part might give me a good internship. Oh, sorry, man. Oh, sorry. What do you do? Oh, I'm a student. Da, da, da. It's a different type of conversation. In the Bronx, I bump into somebody who might fight. So it's placing myself in an environment where the opportunities are different. And I noticed that early on. Like, how do I change my scenery, my environment, so I could have a different type of level of access of opportunities? And that's how I felt about going to school in Manhattan. Then I went upstate to University of Rochester where I launched my company. So the reason why I ended up in Irvington is because I wanted to find a place to actually sell my coffee. And the first opportunity that I had outside of New York City was the Irvington Farmers Market 5 years ago, 2019. And I started doing the farmers market, and then I started doing the Hastings one, and the Chappaqua one, and then the Ridge Hill one, and then I just kept seeking opportunities to really just expand my brand. And then next thing you know, I noticed from people tell you what they need, people tell you what they're looking for. It's like a relationship when you're dating. This is what I'm looking for. People tell you what they're looking for, and you need to just shut up and listen. Oh wow, that's what you're looking for. Got it. So a lot of people in Irvington every single Sunday at the farmers market tell me, man, we only have good coffee around here on Sunday. Well, why is that? Because you're here. Oh, okay. So that means you don't have good coffee Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. Imagine if I had that market. So that's kind of how I realized that there was a necessity in that market, and that's why we ended up in Irvington. And I think that when you look at the census, because you have to do market research, you have to look at target demographics. Who is your ideal customer? Do they even have disposable income? So when I looked at the target demographic of Irvington, I noticed that it was a type of crowd that could afford my coffee, that actually wouldn't complain about the price. In the Bronx, I probably would have people be like, but why are you paying? Why is this the price? And it's like, you're going to Starbucks, and you're paying more, and you got a Gucci bag on your arm. The bag and the math don't make sense. You complain about the things you want to complain about. I think that people prioritize what they want to spend money on, and it's always perspective. Some people find value in commodities. Some people find value in materialistic things. The only reason why people buy it is because they see a value in it. Maybe it's a status quo. Maybe it's a sense of value. So it's all about finding that target demographic and finding the right community that will accept your product and your business. And that was Westchester.
Awesome, and it is an experience, and it's very unique. And I know you talk about sort of the uniqueness, but when you talk about sort of the uniqueness, but then again, you're in a saturated market, and there's the Starbucks of the world, and there's the Dunkin' Donuts of the world, and maybe not in Irvington as much of an impact, but now you're in Whole Foods, right? So now you become, or Starbucks really become that competitor, and probably in Irvington too, and Dunkin' too, and every other coffee, right? So how do you sort of capture and maintain that audience by silencing that noise too around Starbucks? Because in my opinion, maybe people disagree, Starbucks doesn't sell great coffee, but they do sell the experience, or at least as we know it now, the coffee shops.
Inconsistency.
Right. So how do you sort of silence that noise and sort of keep on pushing through?
I think that a lot of people approach many things in the wrong way. A lot of people want to conquer the world. A lot of people want to own an industry. The coffee industry, when I looked at it, right now it's worth like $500 billion. Maybe it went up, but it's worth $500 billion. I don't think I never wanted to capture the whole industry. I never wanted to make Starbucks closed. Starbucks actually helps people like me because they give you an experience and a product. Now they have something to compare it to. So if I give you something that's better, you're gonna be like, Starbucks is kind of whack. I'm rocking with you. So it gives me the opportunity. It penetrated the market. It educated people on what was good and what was bad to a certain extent, and then it gave me room to improve on something. And my mentality is just, if I could get 1%, that's $5 billion. I'm not mad at that. It's really not that hard when you're like, oh man, like I gotta capture this whole pie. It's a lot, But if you just look at like when you look at it like I just need to achieve 1%, it actually doesn't seem that hard, and that's $5 billion. 2% is 10. So it's all about perspective.
So on your website, and some of the students here are taking a social entrepreneurship class. So you talk about the sustainability as a core feature of Don Carvajal Cafe. Sort of, how do you go about establishing partnerships with small farmers? How does sustainability help your business?
I mean, the world is in a tough place, and I think people use the word sustainability a lot, but a lot of people don't really do their homework. It's just a buzzword. But I think when you make corporate connections, when you make business relationships, you really got to dig deep and just get to know the human and go spend some time with those people. I love going to farms and seeing what they're talking about. You know what I mean? Like, if you simply go spend time with somebody and tell them, well, really show me what you're talking about, you'll see if it's for real or not, and what's actually the science behind this, what's the research, what's the results, do you even track this? And a lot of farmers, And a lot of developing countries, third world countries, don't have as much education as we'd like for them to. So how do we build sustainable relationships with all the education we have here to help them do what they're doing better? And is that using less water to produce coffee but still producing great coffee? Because it could be a very wasteful industry, reusing the pulp and the waste of the coffee as fertilizer for the plants. So we kind of have a ecosystem that's beneficiary for the whole thing. It's just the number one thing is just digging deep and actually doing some research. It's really not that hard. We do research for these degrees. You could do that for some business.
So, doing research, digging deep, but what entails a typical day of you sort of fostering those partnerships? You mentioned going back to those farmers, but let's go deep, right? Let's really find out what are some of the steps that you need to do to really carve out those relationships and saying this farmer is a better partner than farmer B kind of thing.
I think the number one thing is really getting to know the person, because ultimately the person is the person behind the business. You know what I mean? So, however you move in life is however you move in business. So, I really get down to the people. Everything's really organic. I could sit in a room with you and really feel you out. You just know when something's off. You know when something's just like, this is just too good to be true. You know what I mean? So I think it's really trusting your instinct, your gut, and then seeing how things play out in the long term. You know what I mean? Because not every decision is a good decision. So sometimes you make decisions and you realize in the long run that it probably was a bad one. So it's really getting to know the person, getting to know the business, and just actually giving people the opportunity. I think giving somebody the opportunity is the biggest thing, because people have given me the opportunity. And honestly, a lot of relationships, a lot of business relationships happen very organically. You'd be surprised. You just might bump into somebody, I don't know, at the gym. This guy's worth like $100 million. Who knew? And here he goes working with this firm. And he's like, well, my client is XYZ. I think you guys should meet. You know what I mean? You just never really know how things are going to pan out. I think the number one thing to building these relationships is always being yourself as well. That's just how I like to live life.
And that's very true. Hector's here because I went to the store and I said, hey, I'm Londonette and I run this institute. Can you come to our space? And he gracefully said yes, and that's amazing. So thank you for that.
Organic.
What? Yes, yes, because I took my mom, my sister. It was like a breakfast date in Irvington, New York, from the Bronx. So it was a full kind of circle kind of moment for us. So thank you for that. But all of our students here are entrepreneurship students, and we focus on that mindset. What advice would you give students who are interested in doing their stuff, whatever that stuff is? What would be 3 things that they should focus on?
Man, I feel like I'm gonna just keep it real. There are such things as bad ideas. There's like definitely bad ideas. Like, it's okay. I think I've failed more than I've succeeded. You just really see what I've succeeded at on the news. Nobody talks about what they failed at. So I did a podcast called Fearless Only, and I was like, oh, this is great. We're talking about the negative things. It's not an easy journey. I think not every idea is a good idea, and I say that because you should be always prepared to fail. That is just life. You might fail at one thing, and then you might hit it on the sixth opportunity. You never know. You could have a business and succeed at one thing, succeed at another, and fail at the third thing. Um, Failure is a part of the process, and that's when you have to take that, sit back, pause, and be like, "Whoa, okay, that was bad. I got hit real good. Whoa, what do I take away from this?" You know what I mean? I think sometimes people fail and they look at it as such a negative experience that they get closed up, and then they're like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to do this anymore." But what you should really do is stop, reassess the situation, and be like, "All right, how do I not make that mistake ever again and grow from that?" You know what I mean? Cool. I lost 2. I'm gonna make back 4. And you gotta always be positive. It's a positive mentality. It's a negative journey when you're doing your own thing, because if the main thing is that if you're doing this for yourself, it's probably never been done before. So there is no blueprint. There is no map for you out there. If it's something somebody did and you have some type of reference, cool. But for you to be successful at it and reach a lot of people, it has to be something that hasn't been done before, or else why would you be popping? You know what I mean? It wouldn't make sense. It is also okay to have a regular job. I really went from being in college to just being an entrepreneur, like aggressive. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go back to my mom's crib. Mom, I don't got rent money, but what I'm doing is working on this idea. And she was like, all right, cool. Just do your idea. Just do the right thing. Da 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 da. And she believed in me. I was lucky because not everybody's parents believe in them. So I went back to my mom's house. Like I don't see why people downplay that so much. Like you don't need your own apartment at 21. Like what are you doing? Like come on. So I really went aggressive. I was talking to a friend of mine how my investment style was aggressive. If I do it, I'm gonna really do it. So I went back to my mom's place. I was investing in my business. I was like, okay, if I'm gonna pay rent money somewhere, if I'm gonna have a roommate, I'd rather just go back home, take that money, and invest that back into the business. And just, I think the number one thing was saving and investing. Not really having a savings account, just really investing into the business. Things cost money. So honestly, I always say it's nothing wrong with having a regular job and then also doing entrepreneurship on the side until entrepreneurship becomes your main hustle, and then you don't have to have a job, and then your entrepreneurship journey should be your side hustle till it takes over the main, and then that becomes your main hustle. Um, it's not wrong with that. It's not wrong with working for somebody. I tell people all the time, you don't want this smoke. It's not easy. You know what I mean? It's really not easy. I have like 20 employees. Every time they have a problem, they come to me. And it's like, bro, some of these people are 30, 40, 50 years old, and they're reporting to a 27-year-old, and they're having a hard time that I'm telling them what to do. But that's something I got to deal with every day. So it's really, understanding that it's not an easy journey. Getting out there, failure is a part of this. Making sure to really do your research on what you want to do. Really quantify for yourself. Make a business plan. If you have a business plan, you actually have a roadmap. It's like a GPS. You're driving on the highway. It's like, all right, cool. I'm going 50 miles per hour. I'm gonna get off exit 5. Oh, you know what? Something went wrong. Oh my God, I can't get off exit 5. The map reroutes. Now you get off exit 7. But that's what a game plan does. When you have a game plan, you're moving with direction. You're moving with values. You're moving with ethics. You're moving with consistency in the direction. And when something goes wrong, you have to pivot. And when you have a document to refer, or some type of idea, you're like, okay, cool, maybe that didn't work out, but we could always go this route because you know what the destination is. You just don't know how you're gonna get there. So it's all about having a roadmap to reference. There's no blueprint. You just know where you're going. You just don't know how you're gonna get there, and that's life.
Awesome. That is life, and able to pivot. Like if we teach anything to our students or for them to ingrain anything is this ability to leverage these skill sets as an entrepreneur, decide what they want to do with it, but really to learn how to pivot with that. Um, but if you weren't an entrepreneur, what would you be doing?
Making somebody a lot of money, man. Making somebody a lot of money. I work hard, man. I work hard. Yeah, I'm making somebody a lot of money right now.
In any industry in specific, like anything besides coffee? I know your passion is coffee, but
I mean, I love marketing. I love storytelling.
okay.
I love storytelling. Everything that has value in this world is because it has a story behind it, and you want to be a part of that story. Storytelling is my thing. I always got in trouble in school because I spoke too much, so I was just like, all right, how do I turn this into something that makes me money because I talk too much, and that became me telling my story and talking about what I do and this passion that I have, and here we are now,
So you're the chief storyteller at Don Carvajal?
all day.
Oh, okay.
No more,
Because
no
everybody
more
has
skill.
like a, yes, you're the founder, and that's technically your title, but there's that underlining title of what is it that you do. For me, the manager of energy. Nothing else, but the manager of energy, right? Disregard every other title just because you feed off of people's energy. But if I would still think about, besides the storyteller, besides the founder of the shop, right? What are you really doing with this? You're bringing a new coffee to New York, right? Potentially now it has wings, right? Now with Whole Foods. What are you really doing? Or what are you really hoping to do?
That's a good question. It's actually bigger than I thought sometimes. It really impacts a lot of people. And we source coffee from a region, Jarabacoa, and in Barahona of the Dominican Republic that actually helps feed about 400 families. And that's a big number, you know what I mean? And and I have employees here that also get paid from this corporation, this LLC, that they take care of their kids and pay rent and car notes, and it's like that's what we really do for community. On a different scale, we also promote Dominican culture, Hispanic culture, the Bronx culture, Dominican culture, uh, ambition, grit, perseverance. I think that's what a lot of people share. So we that's all being told through a cup of coffee. The brand is really the combination of the New York City hustle and the Campo story of Dominican Republic. So that's the story of millions of people. There's just nobody telling it. So I think that's what we do.
So I know you're an entrepreneur, but do you consider yourself a social entrepreneur?
Yeah, but I wouldn't say it
Why not?
because I don't like to, inflate myself. It's just I'm just an entrepreneur. If I do good, I don't post it. I see people like yesterday. I was on Instagram. Somebody's like owns barbershops and he's cutting people's hair for the community and posting it. It's like, bro, you're not doing anything. You're just doing it for your ego. It's like you got a plate of food and I'm giving it to you, but I'm recording it. You're doing it for yourself, not for the person. So I'm just an entrepreneur. I'm just Hector, and I just like to just live, coexist, and make it happen. I don't even want to post what I'm doing.
That's awesome. And very humbling of you. Um, so back to Don Carvajal. Who has gotten onto this bandwagon in terms of investors, people, community?
I would say a lot of people have tried, but I don't believe in having investors, at least not for now. It's like I needed y'all like 5 years ago. But it looks promising when you reach a certain level of success because it's like, okay, now the idea has been quantified, it has been proven. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people have a hard time seeing something before it pops off because it's just risky. And that's why when you start something, you're probably the crazy one in the room because nobody sees what you see, but you're seeing tunnel vision. You're like, nah, this is a thing. 5 years ago, I was like, yo, this is a thing. Like, da 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 da. Everybody's like, I don't know, man. But now everybody's like, damn, man, you really did that. I always believed in you, man. It's like you ain't even bought my coffee. So it's one of those things of just making it happen.
Okay. So what's your future plans for Don Carvajal?
Sometimes I live week to week. People ask me, "What are you doing 5 years from now?" I'm like, "Homie, I don't know what's happening 2 weeks from now." I had long term plans when I started this thing. They developed as I drove my little roadmap, and I pivoted. Nobody before 2019 put into their plan a pandemic. I actually never wanted to do a coffee shop because of the pandemic. Because if we get hit with another one, God forbid, you just gotta pivot. There's nobody walking in. You're gonna lose that revenue stream, and you're gonna have to still pay rent, pay insurance, and pay the citizen because they don't care. The world doesn't stop. You know what I mean? So I think it's just keep growing the company. I have plans that I have executed, like being in Whole Foods. I had that vision 5 years ago, so that's a vision I'm executing now. I always wanted to do a coffee shop when the time was right. It's a vision I executed now. I wanted to be on First Direct. It's a vision I wanted to execute years ago. I already executed it now. I always wanted to be on Amazon. It's a vision I executed now. I always wanted to have corporate partners like Nike, Adidas, Gucci, Live Nation. It's an idea I've executed now. So I go with the flow. I feel like you could plan all you want, but then you get to a point where reality has its own way of doing things, and that's how we go. But opportunities always come up. Sometimes you want to do something and you might not know how you want to do it. Like for example, I was like, I want to supply hospitals coffee. There's so much coffee consumed in hospitals.
So bad.
Come again?
It's so bad.
It's so bad, and it's so bad. And I had an opportunity come up. We've been talking about it for years because it's really complicated to do these deals. But it's just going with the flow, rolling with the punches. That's just how it is. But I think just expanding. I don't know if I want to do another coffee shop soon. Maybe I will because we do have a lot of demand. We
I do
do
have a location, but I'll keep it to myself.
we do have a coffee shop that's a decent size, but for our demand, it's actually too small. I thought it was a perfect size, but a lot of people want to experience what we have to offer. So it does get tough because a lot of people want to go and you might have to wait a little 20, 30 minutes to just get a seat because you all thought this was a cool thing to do and you all arrived at the same time. Now the line's out the door. So, going with the
It's
flow,
a good problem to have.
I think it is a good problem. And the theme this week is that it's still a problem. Still a problem.
And you're still here sitting with us, so I do
Yeah,
appreciate
yeah,
that.
yeah, no, of course. I think to really answer the question, I have built something that is active, that it's happening, and I have so many moving parts to my business from the coffee shop to the wholesale to us doing private catering to us supplying offices to universities to doing deals with hospitals to having an e-commerce store. It's so many moving parts that I'm actually at a point of getting better at what we're doing because I wanted to be where I'm at and now I got to get better at doing where I'm at. You know what I mean? I think people getting opportunities like I was the next thing, next thing. I don't think there's a next thing, and there will be next things. But what I want to focus on for the company moving forward in our current stage is actually getting better at what we're doing, getting more reps in, just getting better at what we do. How do we get faster? How do we get better? How do we improve our systems? You know?
No, yeah. And that's solid because sometimes just chasing the next thing is not it's not the way to go, right? If you don't have a great infrastructure on the bottom that really sort of solidifies your work. But I could have 1,001 questions, but I do want to open it to the students. I could go on, but Marisol is going to help me with who has questions. Raise your hand. I have one right here, Marisol.
Hi, I'm Shirley. I'm from the Heights. I'm Dominican as well. Oh, is it? Can you hear me? Is it? Hello.
No, it's off.
Okay. I mean, like, I'm
It's
pretty
really for the camera.
loud.
Hello, hello.
So my question to you is, how does your leadership style influence the environment you're trying to create, like in your cafes? Like how does that, like, you know what I mean? How do you lead without also keeping that same like richness of like the Hispanic culture and like, if that makes sense.
Well, leading is tough because not everybody reacts the same way to your leadership style. I'm not a micromanager. I like to treat you. Listen, when I was a kid, I hated when they spoke to me twice. Like, bro, I heard you the first time. So I like to respect people, and I like to believe that you heard me the first time, and I like to believe that you understood the assignment. And if you didn't, you're gonna vocalize that. And some people that works for, and they're like, "Oh, I love working with this guy because he's not on top of me like that." But some people, it's hard for me to be open because I'm very just open. Like, listen, this is the task. I don't know how we're gonna climb that mountain. If you're gonna take a chopper, a jet ski, a NASA ship. I don't know how you're gonna get there, but we just gotta get there legally. All right, we just gotta get up there legally, and we gotta execute it, and we gotta get it done. We gotta get coffee to that mountain. I don't care how we gotta get it there. We gotta give people great experience. We gotta be consistent with our food, consistent with our coffee, within our ethics and stuff like that. So leading people is tough because not everybody reacts the same way to one format, and it's learning how to pivot in leadership styles. Some people preferred feedback in a general group because they don't want to feel like you're pointing fingers. Some people like to be pushed to the side, like, listen, man, in private. So it's really learning how people like feedback, really learning how people grasp information. You know, sometimes my days consist of just me writing down step one, you open the door. Step two, turn on the lights. Step three, turn on the coffee machine. It's really, that's really how it is sometimes. You got to make it, really simple for people because it is your idea at the end of the day. It is your business. Nobody's going to look at it or understand it how you do. You built it. So that's why we go to church to understand the Bible because somebody has to interpret it.
But could we go a little bit deeper in how does that style influence that culture? Because I mean, like I've been there, and it's a vibe. No, and this is not coming from a fellow Dominican. It's just you walk in there. There's Juan Luis Guerra, whoever doesn't know him, which is just a very famous Dominican artist. So you're walking there. There's people dancing in a coffee shop. So that to me is also inclined from sort of your leadership style.
Yeah. So to answer the question, I think we don't have a lack of people wanting to work for us. People who work for us are excited to work for us. They're excited to show up to work every day. They might be tired at 6 in the morning because you're human, but But like we don't have a lack of people wanting to work with us for us. You know, people are excited. You know, it's cool, it's dope. You know what I mean? You just might end up on TV because we're doing a feature or something. People just love the environment. It's lively. It's people coming in happy, like, oh man, I saw this, whatever, and I'm excited to be here. I think it's just creating an environment that people enjoy, a place that people want to work at. You know what I mean? And not being complicated about things.
And what happens with that employee that is not part of that vibe?
You have a conversation. Have a conversation. I think sometimes people know when it's probably not the right environment for them, and they vocalize that in many different ways. It could be in their performance. It could be in them talking to people a certain way. It could be certain attitudes. People who want to be there are gonna smile. You know, I really hate telling people to smile. It's like, bro, that's a quality you should just come in with. You know, so I think people who aren't meant to be in a space, they X themselves out like the math department on the hall. You know what I mean? People just remove themselves because they just feel like it's probably not for them.
Any other questions?
Okay, there's. Then I'll go back to you.
Hi, I'm Gianna. I want to know like the backstory behind the whole logo because I see like it's on your shirt and on that little cup. So like, who is that? Like, tell me more about it.
That's my grandfather. I grew up in his farm in the Dominican Republic, and he's my mom's father. And I was always inspired by him, and I felt that if I ever did any product in the agricultural world, I will put his face and name on it because he was truly a farmer. He was like a cowboy. He really rode the horse, and he really was out there living that life. So that's actually a picture of him on a horse. You just don't see the horse. That's just the logo, which is his face. Yep. This guy.
Go back here too. I'm gonna go with her first. 'Cause
Like, what are the different ways that you market slash promote your brand, like in your business? How do you do that?
In terms of storytelling, I think social media is the most important way. TikTok. I mean, I post on TikTok, but I don't really be on TikTok. You know, I create a general reel or a TikTok, post it on Instagram, Reels, YouTube Shorts, TikTok. From that, we get attention. Then media hits us up. So news channels, New York Times or whatever it is, they hit us up. Oh man, we really love that 30-second clip. Now we want to do a 2-minute clip. So then we want to tell the real story. And then everybody has their own way of doing it. So I tell my story to the world because I think that nobody's going to tell your story like you. You can have all the social media managers in the world and all the people. It's still their job, and they probably don't like it, and they're gonna half-ass it. So I think that you're the best person qualified to tell your story, and it's really easy to just pick up your phone and just do it. You know what I mean? People always going for that perfect video, that perfect transition, that perfect angle, that perfect lighting. Just do it. Nobody's good at what they do. You know what I mean? Pick your favorite YouTuber or favorite artist and go look at their first music video, first YouTube video, first reel. I promise you, if they would have based off of that, they would have probably give up. So you got to start somewhere. I think telling your own story is the best way. Social media is the best way, and then there's organic forms of media that come up after that. If the world thinks you have a good story, they're gonna tell it for you.
I actually had a similar question. You framed yourself as a storyteller, which I feel like a lot of us are storytellers at the end of the day. How do you go about staying true to your story and still telling that even though you're managing 17 other things, meanwhile doing that?
I think that when I was growing up, I was always trying to be down to people, and I don't think that really got me anywhere. I was just trying to be down with people, like you just want to fit in, and I think when I started really embracing who I was, I looked around and I was like, this group, this crowd is actually pretty whack. What are y'all doing? You know what I mean? We just committing crimes all day. This is not cool. And I think that he's laughing because we grew up together back then. It's bad. But I think that when I embraced who I really was, I was like, I am this Dominican kid who was born in DR and I was raised in the Bronx. Like I was raised in the Bronx. and I was born in DR. I am of Dominican descent. This is just who I am. I am very Bronx. I am very New York. That's just who I am. And I am very professional, and I can walk in a room and do the whole thing, and I can also be a Yankee fan. You know what I mean? And whatever. So I think once I embraced my true, most authentic self, I saw the most success because I wasn't putting up a front. I wasn't trying to be like nobody. And I think when you are truly yourself, people embrace you in ways that they wouldn't have embraced a different version of you. And people respect it. They admire it because you could just read somebody who's authentic and who's hungry and who wants to get it done. Yep.
Hi, my name is Naomi. My question is, do you remember when and where you were when you decided to take that big leap in launching your business?
Yep. I was at the University of Rochester. I had a business class, and it was a business marketing class. And we had to create this project with a business plan and a marketing plan. And I presented it in a group like this. And I was just, it was all there. And I literally broke down everything. And then after I finished the presentation of the brand and the coffee bag and everything, and I even had samples. I let everybody try it. It was just an idea. And somebody was like, "Oh man, that's so cool." And I had real bags of coffee on the table, like literally every label was printed at the library, slapped on a bag. Somebody was like, "Can I buy that? Because this is so good." And I was like, "What? This is crazy. Like, you forgot we're in class, right?" And then somebody pulled out a $20 bill, bought it. I wish I knew who this person was, but they bought the bag, went about their day. And then it was like proof of concept right then and there. You know, I was so excited because something I came up with just like really, it pierced you so hard that you actually pulled out money out of your pocket and bought it. That was crazy to me. I was like, yo, this is wild. They convinced somebody that this is a real thing, that there's value. And then I went to my dorm room and I just sat there and I was like, how do you reserve an LLC? And then I just did it myself. It's really not that complicated when you're a single member because you're by yourself. But if you have business partners, it's a little bit more complicated because you got to organize whose role is what, how much investment money, capital, da da da. So I was at the University of Rochester presenting the idea to people, and people felt like it was a good idea. We actually got the best grade out of the whole class because we were broken into groups and we had to create different business ideas. You're welcome.
I have a question. What do you want your customer to leave when they leave your store, your cafe? What do you want your customers to leave with? Is it the experience? Is it the coffee? How it tastes? What do you want them to leave with?
I want them to leave in a condition better than the one they walked in. It's so many moving parts. I think sometimes I don't know what I created because, like I was saying earlier, everybody has a different perception of the space. But I think my number one goal is you have a great experience. Nothing bad. I don't like bad things. Bad things aren't good. So I just want you to have a great overall experience. I want you to be happy. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people bring people there. Like, yo, you gotta experience this. And I just want them to have a good experience, have good coffee, have exposure. Earlier, I was making something for somebody, and then I charged them the price, and they were like, "That's it." I was like, "Yeah, that's it." And they were like, "Well, for what you did, because we have like an experience that we do. For what you did, it should have been more, but that's because of the experience. The coffee was great, but it was really the experience." And they were so happy that they put like a $20 tip in the jar. I don't take that. The employees received that. But it just shows you that for somebody to take a 20 out their pocket and then leave it on the thing after they paid the price, you definitely did not have a bad experience, you know? So I think it's really one of those things where I want people to come experience what I created. And for example, these people who came in, they were like visiting from the Dominican Republic, and then we were like on their to-do list of touristy places to go to. And I'm like, what? What am I, Times Square or something? So I think that's what I want to do. It's how do you come and experience this thing that you've been dying to get, and I want you to get the experience you were looking for, or an even better one.
You're spreading awareness on the Dominican culture because you could have taken the safe road, right, and stayed in the Bronx. But most of the folks that live in the Bronx, they know what Dominican coffee tastes like. But you chose a place like Irvington where, yes, they have the money to spend perhaps, but they're not familiar with the culture. So you're taking a chance, right? You don't know, are they really going to love it? But I love that you're in a location where you're spreading that cultural awareness. How do you feel about that?
You'd be surprised. A lot of people come up from the Bronx, and they take the Metro North for the
That's how
first
we
time.
met.
Yeah, they take the Metro North for the first time, and that's us pushing them to try a different kind of thing, pushing them to a new neighborhood where they're like, this is actually kind of nice up here. You know, it's peaceful, it's calm, it's quiet. The Hudson River's right here. It's a nice park, you know, so it's nice to bring people out of their environment. And in the Bronx, what we do doesn't exist, so that's what drives them up. I actually like taking people out of their environments. They come from Connecticut, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Maryland. People come from all over. I like taking you out of your environment. Come into my world. Come into the place I created for you. And I think that as much as there's a positive side, there's also a negative side. There's people who don't know how to deal with that type of culture. There's people who don't know how to deal with that much culture on the block that has never had that much culture. Sometimes police doesn't know how to handle the culture. Sometimes the building department doesn't know how to handle the culture. Sometimes the health department doesn't know how to handle the culture. And I'm in meetings now with the mayor of the town and the county of Westchester, like, that wasn't right. This is how you approach this. This is how you police people in a certain thing. So I think it's important for it to happen because it cultivates conversations that might be uncomfortable. But I sit in the mirror sometimes. I actually don't look at myself in the mirror. But I look at myself and I talk to myself and I'm like, okay, if I have to be the one that has to be the one to lead this conversation because it has never been had, sure. I don't want to. I don't want to be like a Martin Luther King of coffee, whatever, or culture, because I could never be that. But I think it has inspired us to have uncomfortable conversations because of the history we have in the world. You know what I mean? So being at the forefront of the culture, it does also create uncomfortable conversations. But those are conversations that need to be had because if you don't do it, who's going to do it? For some reason, we had to do it.
Thank you.
My name is Braze Mitchell. I know you talked about like you wish the investors were there 5 years earlier. Like if you could choose to have the investors there 5 years earlier, would you go that route or would you go no investors still? Like,
It's
what
funny
would you-
because I actually pitched it to people and they thought it was a bad idea. I pitched it to a few people, they thought it was a bad idea. And I was like, all right, cool. All right, it's your loss, man. And then, some of those people still hit me up to this day. But yeah, it's really tough for people to see what you see unless it's quantified.
So that would be, if you would turn back time, you would not have investors.
I honestly wouldn't change anything. I think life is what it should be.
So could you talk a little bit about that bootstrapping
Uh-huh.
that you did to sort of bring this to life?
It's rough. It's rough. It is really tough because, you living on little to anything. You know what I mean? Little to nothing. I mean, it's tough. It's tough bootstrapping because you really got to sell high to make a decent amount of money because you're not working volume yet. You know what I mean? So you producing small batches, it costs you more to produce because of economies of scale, so you're making less. But I think if you really believe in something, you just make it work. Like bootstrapping is really tough, but you just figure it out. If you're really about it, you're gonna figure it out. You're gonna get into some pickles that you're like, I don't know how I'm gonna get out of this one, but I'm gonna figure it out. Like when you wake up and your account is negative $10,000, and you're like, how the f I'm gonna figure this one out? But if you're really about it, you're gonna figure it out. Oh, actually, I got like 20K that people owe me. Hold up, wait, hold up. Hey, Julio, what up, baby? Yeah, I'm gonna need that, man. I've been letting you rock, but I mean, as you have a business, there's terms, you have product in the world, so it's ways about always figuring it out. I've gotten into pickles. I'm in pickles right now that I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna get out of this one, but I can't wait to tell you about it one day. You know what I mean? So if you just build like that, you just build like that.
Awesome. So, any questions? Because I could go through 1,000 more questions, but any questions in the room? I don't want to take your shines away. So you talked about sort of, you made a reference. If you're going to do it, I don't care how you do it, just make it legal, right?
Right.
So
And compliant.
being a fellow Bronxite, I really knew what you meant, right? So and a lot of the connotation of being sort of from the hood is all these negative experiences. But where do you tap into the positive outcomes of that, right? Of how does that build you to sort of be able to bootstrap, be able to make these sort of moves, right? So it's internalizing these experiences that were lived and switching them to positive ones.
I mean, life is hard. Growing up in the Bronx is hard. Life is hard. Period. Wherever you grow up, every human being in this room has had a hard experience. It's just some environments might be harder than others, but technically everybody has a hard time. You know what I mean? Maybe some people got bullied, and maybe you grew up on the wrong block. You know what I mean? Like, everything is hard. Everybody has challenges. As human beings, we all have challenges. We all get tested. And for me, it was just doing the not right thing was not sustainable long term. I don't want to go to jail. You know what I mean? Like, I'm good. I don't want to go to jail. Who wants to go to jail? So it's, who wants to get deported? I wasn't born here. You know what I mean? So I think it's all about looking at the perspective of things. Diamonds, I know you guys heard this too many times, but diamonds are formed under pressure. They only say that because of experience. In that pressure, you get a certain level of experience, a certain level of problem solving. That this is why the diamond is created. You know what I mean? And that's what they refer to you as, because when the smoke clears, what you're left with is the experience and the problem solving skills, and then you move on to the next thing. And next time you get hit with another problem, you'll be like, all right, cool. Last time I approached it like this, I'm gonna just do this, that, done.
So what are those tips? And I think I could. What are those tips for when you're under pressure to keep on pushing through?
There is no such thing as failure if you never give up. There really is no such thing. I think people fail because they give up. Entrepreneurs simply create solutions to problems. That's what we do. That's what businesses do. People got tired of waiting 2 weeks for a package. Amazon was like 2 days. What up? Prime. What's up? They got tired of USPS and UPS and FedEx losing their packages. Amazon Fleet. They're just creating solutions to problems. People want to experience a certain type of coffee with a certain profile, with a certain experience, with a certain type of music, with a certain lead time, with a certain vibe. Don Carvajal Cafe. I think that's all it is. We're just problem solvers.
Awesome. And thank you for all these words of wisdom, and as well as sort of just your journey is extremely interesting. But as a fellow Dominican, I think that it's inspiring and humbling and a proud moment, right? Because it's nice to see more of us creating these stories. So thank you. So could I get a round of applause for Don
Thank you for having
Hector?
me. Thank you.